Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we're taking a look at a Star Model S, specifically a Spanish Air Force surplus Star Model S. I think a lot of people look at these guns and what they see are the 1970s mediocre quality commercial guns, when in reality, what we have here is a World War II military pistol, which I don't think a lot of people recognize that when they see a pistol like this. So, a little bit of the backstory. Almost as soon as Star began making Browning tilting barrel style pistols, they introduced a compact model. Now, the original compact was the Model D. They brought it onto the market in 1922, so really very early. And it was really a civilian pocket pistol sort of thing. Very short barrel, very short frame. There was military interest expressed to Star in a compact military pistol, but the Model D was just too small. So in 1935, one of Star's designers by the name of Valentin Suigara got the idea to essentially take the Model D and just stretch the frame and stretch the slide a little bit. They would leave it as a .380 caliber locked breech pistol, but give it an 8-round capacity and sort of a more reasonable barrel length. This is on par with something like the Colt Model 1903 pocket hammerless, which incidentally was also used by militaries for roughly the same sort of role that the Star Model S would be. Now, the design was put together in 1935, not a really good date in Spain to be developing a new firearm because, of course, 1936, the Spanish Civil War really breaks out, and that would seriously disrupt production of firearms in Eibar. In particular, the Star plant was essentially shut down and significantly damaged during the Civil War. Bonifacio Echevarria comes back to his factory in 1939 at the end of the Civil War, puts it back together, and starts producing guns again. And one of the first ones that he puts into production is the Star Model S. They advertise it as the new Star S for 1941. And pretty quickly, he gets a whole bunch of military and law enforcement government interest in the guns. So a couple of different Spanish police agencies go ahead and buy tens of thousands of these pistols, and he gets an order from the Spanish Air Force. And that is what we have here. This is one of the Air Force guns manufactured in 1945. Let me show you up close. It's a really cute little gun. This is the original box that the pistol was shipped to the Spanish Air Force in. Ejército de Aire is, of course, Air Force in Spanish. We've got the Air Force crest up here. And the guns were originally, or the boxes were marked with 2 serial numbers, actually. We'll get to that in a moment. A caliber 9mm Corto, which is .380 or 9x17. So we've got our original Star manual. Notice this is the Nuevo Modelo S 1941, the new 1941 Model S, caliber 9mm short .380. And there is the pistol itself. It comes with 2 magazines. I've got this one loaded, and I'll show you why in a moment. We've got a second little manual and a cleaning rod there. The Model S is, as I said, a locked breech. This is essentially a miniaturized 1911, really, or a miniaturized Star Model A. We have a tilting barrel. You can see right there. Barrel tips down. We have a 1911 style barrel bushing on it. Single action, hammer fired, manual safety. Right there, your slide stop and slide release lever. The left side of the slide has our Star manufacturer's marks, caliber .380. We have our standard 3 Spanish proof marks here. The P is a date code, which indicates that this particular model, this particular pistol, was made in 1945. Magazine release. The early pattern of grips, like this, had a Star logo. The thumb rest on the grips there is actually an original feature. That's not an import thing. That's how these were originally made. Then on the right side of the pistol, we have Spanish Air Force crests on both the slide and the frame. They're pretty small, but I can zoom in on them a bit for you there. Star put the model designation and the serial number on the butt of the guns across basically all of their models. So it's a Model S serial number, which is a sequential number including all sorts of different models of guns. So this isn't 282,000 Model S's, but that's the serial number. And then on the side of the frame here, we have the Air Force contract number. So I don't know the exact number that the Air Force got, but hypothetically say 5 or 10,000. They say we want 5 or 10,000 pistols. STAR is going to pull those pistols out of general inventory. So they're all going to already have STAR's general serial number on them. And then the ones allocated to the Air Force are marked with the Air Force crest and given a sequential number, an Air Force number right there. Our GII Miami, Florida right there is our importer mark, so that wouldn't originally have been on the gun. One of the neat things about the Model S, specifically the early pattern of the Model S, like this one, is you have an 8-round capacity of 380, and you have witness holes here in the side of the magazine, which function as you would expect. But you also have essentially a tangible, fully loaded indicator. So I'm going to just have to take the safety off there. Just double check that that's empty, drop the hammer. If I have a fully loaded magazine inserted, when the top round compresses up against the bottom of the breech face, this little tab actually protrudes out the bottom of the magazine, and that gives you an indicator that you have, in fact, a fully loaded magazine. Now, that only works if there are 8 rounds still in the mag. So if you put in a full magazine, rack the slide to chamber the first round and engage the safety, well, now you've got 7 rounds in the magazine, and so this thing isn't going to protrude unless you pull out the mag and top it up. But that's an interesting little feature. It was actually removed. They abandoned this on later variations of the S. The S would stay in production until the 1960s. I believe 68 was the end of the Model S production. And it did. They had a number of follow-on designs: the SS, the SI, and the SIS. So initial production, the Model S is all in 380, but there was interest in a 32 caliber version. That was the SI. And then the Portuguese Navy wanted a magazine safety. So if you took the magazine out, the gun wouldn't fire. That was developed, and then that magazine safety system became relevant after 1968 for importing pistols into the United States because it made the guns more easily importable. And so that became the second S. So a 380 with a magazine safety is an SS. A 32 with a magazine safety is an SIS, and those guns would remain in production even longer than the original standard Model S. To put this into size comparison, here is the exact same box, essentially, for the STAR Model A that was purchased by the Spanish Air Force. So once again, we have the contract number EA, Ejército de Aire, and a contract number with the actual serial number down here on the butt of the gun. And we have the Spanish Air Force crest there. And there's your size comparison between the 9mm Largo Model A and the 380 ACP Model S. These are really, I think they're really adorably cute, compact, handy little guns. It's like the 1911 version of a Colt 1903. Really pretty cool. In addition to the Spanish military and police orders for the Model S, there was also interest from abroad. After World War II, the German Landpolizei would buy a significant number of these. The Portuguese Navy bought them. There were a couple other foreign military contracts for these guys. They really kind of went everywhere. They were in service with the Spanish into the 1980s. With the Spanish police, they were in service until the 1990s even, which I think is really pretty remarkable. For a gun that most people, when they look at, aren't going to recognize as even being military or police in the first place. Now, the way they get into the United States is really interesting. So in the 1980s, the early to mid-80s, the Spanish police and military are buying new guns. The military has adopted the M82, the Llama M82. The police are moving to STAR Model BM pistols, but they don't have enough money to just straight up buy all the guns they want. So the military and the police arrange a deal to partially pay for their new guns with traded-in surplus pistols. This isn't unique to Spain. This happens other places and at other times. But as soon as those surplus pistols come in, the companies like Llama and STAR are immediately just reselling them on the commercial open market. Now, the STAR model, they get a bunch of Spanish Air Force pistols, both Model A's and Model S's. The A's are, of course, these big old guns that are easy to import. But if you're familiar with US import law, you may be looking at this Model S and going, how does that meet import regulations? Because the US is actually very strict about restricting importation of compact handguns into the US. And As it is put together for the Spanish Air Force, the Star Model S does not meet US import regulations. It needs to have more features that make it a target or a competition pistol. And so what happened was the importer who bought a bunch of these from Star went ahead and submitted one to ATF to get an import permit, and he modified it to make it more amenable to import. I don't remember the exact details. I know he put adjustable target sights on it, and there may have been an additional modification. It's not entirely clear. With those modifications, the gun did meet import requirements, and he was given a permit to import them in the condition of his sample gun. But then what he chose to do instead is just bring all the guns in completely unaltered, which, frankly, for historical sake, is far better. But the guns show up here, and they are widely advertised for sale in their original condition, in their original boxes. They're really cool. This is exactly how you want to get surplus. But he then promptly was sent to jail for grossly violating the terms of his import permit and illegally importing thousands of these Star Model S's. Happily for the rest of us, once the guns are in the United States, they're perfectly legal because there's nothing that makes this illegal to have in the US. It's just a matter of what can be imported, not what can be had here. It's nuances of stupid laws. But so the guns that he imported illegally are just fine to own and possess still today, but it resulted in the importer going to jail over the whole thing. So an interesting end to the story of a Spanish Air Force compact pistol acquisition. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I thought it was a neat story on a couple of different fronts. Thanks for watching.